My mother always cooks breakfast for everyone. That's where the grits come out, the scrambled eggs, the biscuits, some type of sausage or bacon, and I'm always for it. But when I do go home, like if I'm just going home to visit, she will break out the biscuits.
Welcome to Dear Food. My name is Ashley Cheney and I love food. I love to make food. I love to eat food. I love to talk about making food. If it has to do with food, I am there. See, I actually believe that food has the power to transport us, not just to different places around the world, but also to different places within our memories. Whether it's a food that takes you back to your grandma's kitchen or that awesome crepe you had while visiting Paris, food is the great vehicle of our imagination. So, if you find yourself drooling over pictures of food on Instagram or watching hours of cooking shows, this show is for you. I created this podcast to connect with the emotional side of food and to be immersed in new cultures and dishes, not just through our belly, but most importantly, through our hearts. I am so excited to have you here. Let's dig in. Hey everyone, and welcome back to a brand new episode of Dear Food. Oh, this week's episode, I say this every week, and I mean it every week because so far I have just been so excited to talk to every guest we've had on the show about every kind of food that we've covered so far. This week is certainly no exception to that. This week, we are talking all about soul food with my very good friend, Lem Gonsalves. You'll meet him in just a few minutes. Before I bring him on the show, I just want to give you guys a little bit of backstory. Lem and I used to work together at a network, a TV network called Afterbuzz. You'll hear us talk about that a little bit. But we really share this common thread that both of us are hosts and that both of us love food. So you're going to get to hear a little bit of both of those worlds mixed here, but you're definitely going to hear Lem has this really wonderful family dynamic. His mom is an amazing cook and really instilled in him this love and deep appreciation for food. She certainly can cook some mean soul food, so you're going to hear all about that. And of course, we would be remiss if we didn't talk about the Black Lives Matter movement in an episode that's all about soul food. I don't know if you guys know this or not, but soul food has its roots in American slavery. Really, that is where we got soul food, is from the enslaved people that created some of the dishes that we now know and enjoy in our kitchens around the world. But they have some deep roots there. So yes, the show does get, you can't even call it political, but I guess we'll say social a little bit. You know, as always, our focus is really, we talk mostly about food, but Lem has really been an activist in his own right, and it's incredibly inspiring the work he does. He's a spoken word poet. He's an incredible host covering a lot of diverse shows, and he's just, on top of everything, he's just an awesome guy. I'm so grateful to call him my friend. I was honored to call him a colleague, and I'm beyond humbled to have him on our show. So let's dive in. You guys are going to love hearing his voice. He's got like one of those voices that you want to listen to forever. And I so enjoyed our chat, and I hope you will too. So without further ado, let's dive into today's episode.
What's up, Ashley? How you doing? So excited to be here with you talking about food.
Well, right. Doesn't it kind of bring you back to when we used to be on a show together talking about food?
Yes. I remember.
Do you remember those
vividly.
days?
I do remember it vividly. Shout out to Afterbuzz and Hell's Kitchen.
Afterbuzz.
Such good times. You guys would pick on me, but it's cool. I would defend myself. Yeah.
Lem was the captain of the ship, so to speak. And I'll just give some people a little bit of backstory here. But Afterbuzz is the network. It's a host platform. It's the ESPN of TV talk. It's basically a place where you go and you do after shows. So you talk about shows after they've aired. And a panel of four of us came together. I think I was a late add to, I was maybe replacing somebody else that had started earlier. The panel was about Hell's Kitchen. So we were, of course, found ourselves talking about food. And how long had you been on the Hell's Kitchen show?
Oh man, it was one of the first shows I started. So it had been several years that I had been doing it. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it had been quite since I started at AfterBuzz, which now would be about, maybe 6 years, 7 years. I had started. That was one of the first shows I did. So, but I was a huge fan of the show. Huge fan of the show.
I'm a huge fan of anything food. Yeah.
I mean, exactly. Exactly. Drama and food. Like, it was great marriage.
Yeah, and then throw in like the opportunity to host and talk about it and talk to other people about it. It's like, okay, this is what's up.
Exactly. Yeah, it was great talking to the cast members and things of that nature. And I got to capitalize on that and visit their restaurants. And you guys would be jealous against
Yeah,
why you would pick on
exactly.
me. Because I think it was just jealousy. It was just jealousy, is what it was. But it's cool. You and Frank.
Pure unadulterated jealousy. Pure unadulterated jealousy.
Shout out to Frank.
Frank and Robin, man. I remember, so there was a panel of 4 of us. Lem was the lead host because, I mean, obviously, as you guys can tell right now, he is made for this. Listen to that gorgeous voice.
Stop it. Stop it. No, keep going.
But I remember I had been Afterbuzz. I was new. I had like just been newly accepted into the network. And they're like, okay, we're going to put you on the show of Hell's Kitchen. And I was like, okay, great. And then I was poking around to see who the other panelists were. Of course, you and Robin Bird and Frank Moran.
Shout out to Robin.
Robin and Frank, shout out. And I remember thinking like, oh my God, this is like the big leagues. They're so good. I don't know if I can keep up with them because all 3 of you guys are, first of all, have these incredible, just literal voices, not just the what you use it to say, but your actual voices are like amazing. I'm like, oh my God. So I was always nervous for those shows and I loved it because it was like exciting.
Yeah, no, it was good times. It was really fun. It was really fun
Yeah.
hosting those shows. Absolutely.
Yeah. I almost miss it. I almost miss it. I don't know if I have the time these days.
Almost.
Well, are you doing stuff still over at AfterBuzz, and are you still hosting some shows and stuff?
Yeah, I'm doing one show currently, a crew that I've done a lot of MTV network shows with. Basically decided to cover a show called The Challenge, which is on MTV. It's probably their most popular show that they run. And
Yeah, I've heard that.
right. And so we decided to cover it. And AfterBuzz, allowed us to do a platform for it because there was already a panel that was doing the show, and so they really wanted us to still have the show to run. So we did like a kind of a specialty type aspect of the show, and so we're doing that currently. Yeah, it's been great. It's been fun. Having guests, call in on the Zoom situation, and so yeah, it's been good. It's been fun. What I do like is that obviously with what's going on and essentially with the movement that we have going on, we've been able to even incorporate that as part of our programming. So that's been also great as well.
Yeah, well, let me just pick that up. Do you mean the Black Lives Matter movement?
Absolutely.
Oh, good. Yeah, I saw that Afterbuzz TV, which just to give you guys even a little bit more information, Afterbuzz TV is owned by entertainment host Maria Menounos. It's her platform. She created this platform, this network to train up hosts and offer them sort of a doorway into the hosting world. And one of their sister networks is called Black Hollywood Live.
Correct.
And yeah, so you're saying that AfterBuzz has given even more of a voice to the Black Lives Matter movement? I think I saw a statement the other day.
Yes, no, absolutely. What's been great is they've kind of reorganized during the movement. They've kind of reorganized. They shut down for some time. They just called it a blackout because they just wanted to be sensitive to what was going on. But when programs started entering back, what they wanted to do was highlight not only Black voices, but anything that had to do with Black experiences on television. So, like, for instance, the show that we were doing, there were some things that had come up with some of the cast members.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, being problematic, saying some
super racist things,
very
right?
racist things.
Yeah.
And so, and some of it was really old. Some of it is something that we had even, talked about 2 years ago, but it was resurfacing because of what's going on. And so what we were able to do recently is actually combine with the other panel. And we basically, we didn't interview any guests. We just talked about what was going on and centered on that. And really just, it became an education tool as to things that are going on and a lot of things that people didn't know about. One of the instances is there was a girl that she ended up being fired by MTV because of a statement that she made on Twitter, and rightfully so, I believe. But in result of that, that was what prompted, us, because there was another person that was also, they didn't air her special. She had a special that was coming up on Teen Mom, also an MTV show. And as a result of that, they ended up not airing that in the States. And so that caused obviously a lot of stuff on social media concerning that. Well, what about other people that have said things? And that's when things started resurfacing, old tweets, old videos, things of that nature. And so we got a chance to do a 2-hour special discussing it. And
wow, I didn't know that. That's awesome.
It was really, really dope. Really, really dope. I was so glad to be a part of it. And yeah, like I said, it ended up being an education tool. And you see the fans was like, I didn't even know that this was happening, or not so much this was happening, but kind of the history behind the Black Lives Matter movement, but also just things in general, systemic racism and all of that ends up being coupled in when you talk about things of that nature.
Right. I'm so glad to hear that that AfterBuzz in particular is embracing that. And I've got to say that though it's a little late. I'm happy to see that people are really, really diving in, taking ownership, doing their best to learn what, frankly, we should have been taught. And it's
Absolutely.
unfortunate, and it's attributed to our systemic injustices, racism, just lack of transparency, knowledge, education. I mean, it's all I can say is it should have happened a long time ago.
Absolutely.
At least we're doing something now. That's all I can say about that.
Absolutely.
Well, okay, let's dive into today's episode, because I think that we will actually have a chance to circle back to some of the Black Lives Matter movement actually within today's topic.
Yeah.
Today we are talking all about soul food,
Yeah.
But before we get into the food of the day, I want to start every episode like we always do by asking our guest, do you remember the first food you ever tasted?
Woo. So,
where does it take you?
Oh, man. I'm going to say this, and I just experienced it recently again, because I went back to visit my parents a couple of weekends ago, and so stayed there for a few days. And my mom, whenever I go, she knows she has to make these. So the first thing that I remember tasting is my mother's biscuits. My mother, and I even said this to her when I was there a couple of weeks ago. I was like, to this day, and I've done a lot of traveling, and I've been all over the world. Of course, I'm a foodie at heart, so I'm always trying. Brunch is like one of my favorite. When you live here in LA, brunch is like, come on now,
brunch is life.
It's
brunch
super
is life.
life. Come on now. So I'm a connoisseur of biscuits, and I've tasted them all over, whether it's at soul food kitchens or southern kitchens or whatever the case is, restaurants that specialize in biscuits.
Mm-hmm.
And my mother's biscuits to this day are still the best biscuits that I've ever tasted.
What makes them so special?
First of all, oh gosh, let me break this down. So they are so moist. That's the first thing that you get. Because
we just lost half the listeners because you said the M word.
They're so gone. Moist. And I'm telling you, and a lot of times that's my pet peeve when it comes to biscuits is when they're dry. Because a lot of times you'll get a biscuit and it's just rock hard or it's dry. You got to have like a gallon of milk to drink with it. And it shouldn't be that way. You know what I'm saying?
So are we talking biscuits? Like, I'm from Virginia. And so when I think of a biscuit, I think of like that kind of, it's pretty doughy. It's not like a roll that's like smooth on top. It's kind of like a rough, like a biscuit that goes with biscuits and gravy biscuit. That kind of biscuit?
Yes, okay. Absolutely. Yeah, no, biscuit, straight up biscuit.
That's what a biscuit is.
A biscuit, yeah. He's talking biscuits, girl. But yeah, no, that in itself, that's the one thing, the first thing. Also, the way the ingredients, and I don't know the recipe. I don't want to know because I don't want to be tasked to make them ever. I just want to leave it to her. But I don't ever need to put butter on the biscuit because they're so buttery already.
That's a mark of a good biscuit right there.
Right.
I mean, they're made with butter, but I like everything basically that I eat is a vessel for butter. So there's still going to go butter on top.
No, I hear you.
But so do you remember like that food, if that's the first food you remember tasting, do you remember like the moment or where you were in the world or what that experience was when you first had that biscuit?
I mean, my mom's kitchen, really.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because
where did you grow up?
So I grew up in Sacramento, California, born and raised there. And then when I was 23, I moved to Stockton, California, which is just 45 miles south. And then been there ever since. And then moved to LA about just 7 years ago.
Mama was the cook of the house?
Oh, yeah. Dad didn't do nothing. Like there was a period of time. It's funny you say that because my mother, while she had I have 4 younger siblings. So it's 5 of us total. And my mother, she went back to school to get her master's degree in speech pathology while she had 5 kids.
Dang.
She was just, she was working as a secretary. She knew that's not what she wanted to do, for the rest of her life. And she had, went to school partially, but ended up stopped going. So she and speech pathology was her heart. She grew up, she worked in deaf school. She's fluent in sign language. And so that's just was her heartbeat. And so she went back to school to get her, of course, her bachelor's and then her master's. And so while she would do that, obviously, she would still take care of us as kids and still cook. But there were times that she had to study and things of that nature. So whenever my dad was tasked to cook, Oh my gosh.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
It was the one thing my dad made. It was so gross. He made like pork and beans, like
Oh
the
no.
Franks and beans. Have you ever had the Franks and beans?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
The
yeah, yeah.
nasty beans, and you have the hot dogs, the terrible
Yep.
hot dogs, and you
The
put it in the
canned
oven.
kind? Like, was it
Yes,
like the kind? Yeah, yeah. You popped it out of the
yes,
can. Oh
yeah.
yeah.
Pop
That's
it out of a
like
can. Nasty wieners. You put them into the beans, and you put them in the oven, and that was dinner. And I would be like, we would hate it when my mom didn't cook. It was just like, oh, dad's cooking again. That was his
oh
like go-to meal.
yeah.
Or like getting, obviously getting Albert. There was this chicken that we would get to. We would buy it because it was super cheap. It was like $2 for you get a whole chicken. So it would feed everybody from this store called, I don't know if it even exists, called Albertsons. So we
Oh
we
yeah, no,
dubbed
I
it.
know Albertsons.
Oh, okay,
I
okay.
I
So
think it is a Northern California thing though, because I haven't seen them down here. It's basically Vaughn's.
right, okay. Yeah, that's right, same company. But yeah, so they would get Albertsons chicken, and that was like the go-to meal. So it was either Albertsons chicken that he would buy, which we get sick of, or it was the pork and beans with the Franks.
I'd go Albertsons chicken pretty much every time on that one.
I mean, yeah, we didn't have a choice. We're kids.
Franks and beans, that's like double loading up the gas chamber. That's
Oh
like
gosh.
two times the whew, that's
Yeah.
dangerous feeding
Yeah.
5 kids that.
Right.
So, did your mom then teach you in the kitchen? Like, did you spend time with her in the kitchen when she was in there cooking? Did you ever want to like learn? I know you don't want to learn her biscuits, but were you
Right,
ever
right, right.
in there with her?
I mean,
Because you can
sometimes
cook, I think.
I can survive. I can survive. Yeah, single person. Yeah, I can survive. I wasn't like too interested. I mean, I would go in there if she needed help or she would ask for help or what have you. I know my sisters would be in there more so. Like I have two younger sisters, but one right under me, so she would be in there more so with her than I would. But yeah, I mean, I would help, but it wasn't like, oh, mom, let me take over or let me. I would never volunteer. I'll put it like
You were
that.
the volunteer eater.
Sure.
That
Oh,
was
oh
your
yeah,
job.
all day. I was the first one at the table, hands down,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
hands down.
Well, so she definitely obviously instilled a love of food, even if it wasn't for cooking. So let's go ahead and jump into today's food, which is it's a big category, soul food. And this is kind of a big topic, and I like it that way because
Mhm.
it covers a broad range of things.
Right.
So let's start with this. What is soul food to you?
Well, I mean, if you a blanket statement, soul food is food from the soul. I mean, that's just it. But I think historically, with Black people, especially in the South, it was food that was created that they would make, and they would make it with love. It's basically food that is, like I said, has a lot of Southern roots. So when you talk about types of soul food, you're looking at fried catfish, you're looking at smothered chicken, you're looking at chitlins, which I don't really care
Chitlins.
for, but that's part of it. So there's a lot, but it definitely has Southern roots, and it goes way back, way back. And then even if you want to talk about it with slavery, generally the slaves would cook and eat what the master didn't want. So whatever the master threw away, they would take that and then they would make meals out of it. So that's where you get like chitlins and pig's feet and hog moss, and when you start talking about things like that, that are some of them are now delicacies, but back
Right,
then
right.
they were
It was
just
the
throw. It
discards.
was a
Yeah.
discard, and so they would turn it, and like I said, put that soul and love into it, and they would make the food out of it.
Right. And so I'm glad that you brought that up because I grew up in Virginia and soul food was, I didn't always think of it as being a black or white thing, but I mean, I think that's obviously denying its heritage because that's where soul food came from. I mean, and I as a white person, I ate soul food a lot because I was in Virginia and that's, we would have that's where I learned how to make biscuits and gravy. That's where that was my sort of introduction to soul food, but I think it's perfect timing that we actually really talk about the history of soul food and that it is rooted in our black ancestors and
Mhm.
what they brought to they gave soul food to this country. I mean, I always thought that soul food meant like food that makes your soul feel good because it's comforting.
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, that too. That too. It does make your soul feel. It's definitely comfort food if you want to label it. When you think
Yeah.
about all the foods, it's definitely comfort food for sure. But and it makes the soul feel good. But yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So when you think of soul food, is there a particular, okay, if I'm craving soul food, I want this dish?
Ooh. Well, I want all of it.
I
So
know everything you just said as you're listening off. I'm like, yes, except for chitlins.
yeah, I'm good. I'm good off that. I literally tried it. Like my grandmother would make it when I would go visit her. She used to live in Oxnard, California, and so whenever I would go visit her as a kid, She would make it. That was the only time. My mom never made it. And this the smell. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Do y'all know what chitlins is? It's the chicken livers, right?
No,
Isn't that
no,
chitlins?
no, no. It's pig intestines. Yeah.
Okay, see, I've been doing chitlins. I'm like, no, thank you on the chitlins. It's pig
Pig
intestines?
intestines. It's the lining of the intestine.
No,
Yeah.
no, thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah. I'm good. Yeah. It smells bad. Yeah. It comes in a bucket. Like,
Comes in a bucket.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
so
yeah, yeah.
no on the chitlins. All
No,
right,
no,
so what is
no.
the thing you do want when you think
So
of soul food?
when I think of soul food, if I'm gonna go to, let's just say, a soul food restaurant, the first thing I'm thinking of is fried catfish. I
Mm.
love catfish, and my grandmother used to make it, and I lived with her for a certain time as an adult, and she would make it almost every day, and it was the greatest. So fried catfish, cornbread, and hot water cornbread especially, which is really really good.
We were gonna get back to this cornbread. There's a debate on cornbread. I want to get back to this.
Okay, for sure. Definitely some collard greens. Collard greens is dope. Let's see what else. I'm gonna get probably some yams, some yams thrown in there.
Candied yams.
Yeah, I mean candy. Yeah, they're sweet. They're sweet for sure. I mean all of these dishes people have like their versions of,
Right, right.
but for me, they're gonna be candied. With this, cinnamon and all that kind of stuff. So
Yeah, yeah.
that, and then for dessert, definitely is gonna be sweet potato pie for sure.
Sweet potato pie.
Sweet potato
Which
pie.
I think is actually yam pie as we know it, right?
Well, I mean, sweet potatoes are in the yam family, right?
I guess this is so hotly debated
Right.
because
Right.
when I go to make a sweet potato pie, which actually I haven't made from scratch, so I'm kind of talking out of my butt here. But I think what I'm eating is actually yam pie. But you know what? Sweet potato pie, yam pie, either one, put them in my face. I'm with you. What about pecan pie? Do you like pecan pie?
Pecan pie is good. I think for me, it's very, very sweet. Like, it's overly sweet. So I don't typically, that's not my go-to. I'll have it. You know what I'm saying? Like Thanksgiving, people have all these dishes, so I'll have a piece, but definitely not my go-to. Sweet potato pie is my favorite, hands down. And there's always a big debate too about sweet potato pie and pumpkin pie.
Yeah.
Pumpkin pie gonna go fly a kite. Sweet potato pie is way, way better. It is superior. I don't care what anyone says. Boom. There, I said it. Boom.
I'm 100% with you there. Pumpkin pie has like no taste. It's like no flavor.
Come on, man. Get out of here.
I'm with you.
Get out of here.
Let's jump back to cornbread for a second.
Yes.
So as you know, cornbread, what's you said hot water cornbread? What's the difference between hot water cornbread and regular cornbread?
So regular cornbread, or as you would think, is something that is baked, right? So you make it, mix it up. Some people use the box, which, if that's what you're doing, cool.
No shame.
More power to you. Just say it.
I'm not going to eat it, but
Exactly. But ultimately, it's baked, right? It's put in the oven and you bake it like you would bake anything else, like a biscuit or a croissant or something like that. Hot water cornbread is something that's made on a skillet. So it's something
cast iron, right?
Right, exactly. So you form it like my grandma used to, put the meal and everything and put it together in these like balls, and then she would basically put it on the pan and cook it over the stove. So that's hot water cornbread. So it's just made differently. It tends to be more dense,
crispy edges.
Yeah, but the crispy edges are fire. That's what makes it fire. Those crispy
100%.
edges. Yeah, exactly. And they go great with fish, with fried fish. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Anything that you can kind of, especially if there's like any kind of sauce that you can sop up, or like my grandparents actually still have their cast iron cornbread pan. It's like they look like almost like little molds of corn, but it's cast iron for the cornbread that goes on the stovetop. It's delish. My grandpa's a good cook.
There you go.
When I think of soul food, I think probably because for the reasons that we were just talking about, because in its roots, soul food came from trying to make the most out of these sort of leftovers, the things that were not good enough for the main house,
right,
or whatever the case may be. And so I think that's probably why a lot of things are fried, because you fry up anything and it tastes like so good,
Fried food is good. Yeah.
Okay, so I loved hearing about how, you are a biscuit connoisseur and a soul food aficionado. Can you think of the best place, obviously outside of your mom's kitchen, that you've been to for some soul food?
Yeah, it's a great question, Ashley. Actually, there is a spot in Chicago I went to a few years ago. And let me tell you, I was ready for it because I'd heard some great things about it. Obviously, when you visit a new city, you do your research. I always do food research. So I always want to look at, where I can find the best food. And this place was called Gus's World Famous Fried Chicken. Let me tell you. So, I mean, obviously, fried chicken is a staple in the soul food menu, right?
Mm-hmm.
You got to have fried chicken on the menu.
Amen.
And so this place, hallelujah, this place is world famous. And I was like, okay, you say world famous, but
it's like
I
world
talked
famous cup of
to,
coffee, but it's actually a crappy
right,
cup of coffee.
exactly. So this place, I actually asked some people ahead of time. I was like, yo, where's the best place to go, for soul food? Everyone that I talked to that was either from Chicago or had been in Chicago said this place. And when I tell you, not extravagant, you walk in, definitely efficient, but this was probably one of, if not the best fried chicken I ever had in my life. It was so good. It was fire. It was fire. Yeah, I had to double back. I had to, they say so good you can slap your mama. My mama wasn't there, and if I tried to do that, I'd be dead. But bottom line is, it was extremely good.
Oh, you had me at you when you're like the outside was unassuming or it wasn't anything. That's to me. I'm like those are the places I always want to hit when like they don't look like some fancy. You don't want to get fried chicken from some like shishi looking place.
No, of course not. Leave that for the sushi. You know what I'm saying? No.
Yes, I had a terrible fried chicken experience in California because it's tough out here. I can't find in LA. I had a fried chicken, and it was like, when I say the breading, I mean, it was like, it actually was like almost like sandwich bread on the outside. Like it was so thick, and like, you want to bite into a piece of fried chicken and have it be crispy, and you want to get a little bit of skin with chicken in every bite is what I want.
Absolutely.
Is that what was your mark of good fried chicken at what's it called again?
Gus's world famous fried chicken. So for me, I love, my favorite piece of the chicken is the thigh. Yes. Because it is the most juicy, right? It's probably the most fatty too, and the most unhealthy portion, but I don't care. It's fried chicken, right? And so that's kind of my mark. And also for me, a good take of fried chicken, and you kind of just said this earlier, is the skin, right? You have to have the right consistency of the crispy skin versus the juicy inside, right? So that has to have a good marriage, and then bonus points on flavor, right? Yes. Because it sucks to just have, people who fry chicken and don't season, like that's the cardinal sin. So it has to have good seasoning. But if you have that holy trinity of the crispy skin with the seasoning and then the juicy inside, girl, let me tell you, that's what I'm looking at. That is what I'm looking at.
Oh, yeah, I love it.
Stop it.
I like the fried chicken thigh, and it's like my disgusting way of eating fried chicken, which always comes with mashed potatoes and gravy. Because, by the way, gravy to me is like a whole nother. That's like a whole nother Southern food in and of itself. Like,
sure.
I'm talking biscuits and gravy. I'm talking gravy on mashed potato. The gravy. We're gonna talk about smothered chicken too. But like, I take the skin off of the fried chicken and I scoop up some mashed potatoes, like a real, like a real fatty.
You use the chicken skin as a vessel for your mashed potatoes.
I know.
That's on a whole nother level. That's a whole nother level.
How I haven't had a heart attack yet is
How are you not 300 pounds? I mean,
you're only seeing me from the waist up. You don't know. You don't know what's going on down there. I can't actually fit in my pants anymore. So we talked about cornbread and hot water versus regular. Okay, can you walk me through smothered chicken? Because I think I might have a different idea of what smothered chicken is. What's smothered chicken to you?
So that's one thing I haven't had a whole lot of. It wasn't something my mom really made. If she did make chicken, it was usually fried or baked or what have you. So, but what I've had of smothered chicken is that it's cooked, and then you take the gravy, and the gravy is kind of over it. And so that's what I've had. Like if I've gone to a soul food restaurant and they have smothered chicken, and so that's what I see it. As far as how it's prepared, I'm not sure if they put it in they may have different ways, but the whole smothered aspect is the gravy's over the chicken.
Right. I wonder if a smothered chicken, as you've had it, is something that I've called chicken fried steak. Have you ever had chicken fried steak?
I have had chicken fried steak. Yes.
It's not that, right?
No, it's not that. No, it's
chicken
actual
fried steak is
steak fried in chicken oil. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, which is delicious, by the way.
No, it is. But no, smothered chicken is definitely chicken, and then the gravy on top of it. But yeah, it's very, very Southern thing. You don't find it too much here on the West Coast at all.
I actually haven't found a good with the exception of when I lived in Oakland. There were some good soul food restaurants up in Oakland.
Yes. Oh yes. I forgot you stayed in Oakland.
I did. I lived there for about 4 or 5 years I lived it's funny at the time, my boyfriend at the time was, well, I mean, he's still alive. Just we're not together, obviously, but he he was Filipino. So I lived with a
Okay.
Filipino family. I lived with their family, and it was awesome because his mom cooked like,
Ooh.
I mean, she lived in the kitchen. She cooked
Chicken adobo,
chicken
pancit,
adobo, pancit,
lumpia.
lumpia.
Yes, all of that.
Yes.
Trust me,
All
I
of
know.
that.
I know.
She fried chicken like she could fry chicken like it was like a Tuesday afternoon. And she'd be like, "I'm gonna fry." I've explained my fear of fried chicken. If I was making fried chicken, it would be like everybody clear the house. I'm gonna do this thing. It would be like running a marathon. She
Right.
just whip it up. But oddly, there was some crossover between the Filipino community and like the Black soul food community. And I don't know if the crossover was just that we all loved food, because like those two cultures really center around food. Like Filipinos are about the food.
Oh
Like
yeah.
that's what it's about.
Oh, I grew up with some Filipinos. Yeah, all my friends in high school are Filipinos, so I would go to their house parties. Absolutely.
And it's like, how many people are coming here? Oh, just
Right.
like 10. And it's enough food to literally feed an army,
Yes. Yes.
which I love. That's like, that's where my heart goes. I connect with people that are like, who are you? Let's feed you. You know,
Right.
That's what I love that. I feel like I want to say, and forgive me, but where are your parents from? Because they weren't born in the States, were they? Or was your mom?
Oh yeah, no. Both my parents were born in the States. My father, he was actually, speaking of Oakland, he's born and raised in Oakland, so he's from
Oh,
the Bay
yay.
Area. Yeah. My mother, she kind of bounced around. You know, she lived in the South a little bit. She lived in here in California for a little bit. I mean, she kind of went back. So she would spend in Alabama, which is where my mom's family like are from. And
There you
so
go. There's the soul food in me.
she would spend a lot of like with her grandmother. She would spend a lot of summers there. I mean, between her mom, my grandmother, and my great grandmother, obviously is where she got her cooking.
It's like, how does soul food get all the way out to California? You know, and but then you think about it as people move across the states,
Oh, of course.
because I didn't expect to find soul food or whatever out here. I've been out in California for 16 years now, and it's so easy to find, like on every menu, every diner in Virginia. It's like there's some kind of
Right.
grits or
Sure. Yes.
things like that. Like when have you ever seen grits on a menu out here? I never see grits.
Oh my gosh, I don't get grits until I go home to see my mom, and she cooks them with the biscuits. It's rare you find them. Like maybe a diner might have them on the menu of something like that. I've seen them, but it's very rare. You don't typically, but any of your, like we talked about brunch earlier, any of your posh LA brunch spots, they're typically not going to have grits. No.
Not until it gets cool. Like when it cycles around and it's the hip thing. Like when grits come into fashion, it'll be.
If grits end up being like quinoa or kale, then yeah, you'll see it everywhere. You'll see it everywhere. But until
quinoa
then,
or kale.
Right? Until then,
man, white girls did the most for quinoa and kale. Like we were like the PR team for quinoa and kale.
Yo, I'm telling you, right? Like, I think, first of all, I think, just speaking of quinoa, I don't think it has any flavor. I think it's really weird. I think it's weird. Like the consistency is off, but like, y'all love that. Y'all love you some quinoa. For real.
I think this is about to get real graphic. So listeners, if you're eating, put down the food for a second. But like, I think quinoa passes quite quickly through you. You know how corn sometimes passes through you quite quickly?
Yes.
Like whole corn?
Yes.
I think it's a similar thing. So it's like, there's some appeal in terms of the diet aspect of it. Is that gross? Yeah. I mean, it's gross. Yes, it is.
No, it's gross. It's absolutely gross. But yeah, I mean, that's how you roll.
What's scary about quinoa, though, is that because it became so popular in the States, it like depleted, and I'm totally talking not the most educated on this here, but I think it comes from like somewhere in South America is where mostly the growers of quinoa are like need quinoa to sustain that's like a huge part of their livelihood. And because there's protein in quinoa as well.
Okay.
And we like depleted their sources so that we could have it over here.
Really?
I'm not the most well researched on this. I read one article about it, so don't quote me or whatever. But
gotcha.
I think
don't hold you to the fire.
We'd like to come in as America and screw other countries over by our cap or whatever.
Right.
Anyway, I don't know enough about it to talk about it. Let's talk about other parts of food. Okay. Oh, what about your brothers and sisters? Do y'all still get together quite a lot? Are you guys still real close?
Oh, we're definitely close. Obviously, me being here in LA, most of them. So I have one sister, my baby sister. She lives in Oakland, and then the rest of everyone lives in Stockton. So I when we do get together, I mean, because I'm here, they're mostly Oakland and Stockton are very close. So my sister, and plus her boyfriend lives in Stockton. So she's there pretty much every weekend. It's only like an hour, 20 minutes, away from each other. So she goes every weekend. So, but yeah, we're definitely real close. Even during the whole pandemic situation, we would get together on Sundays and literally have like family time. And so we'd play these virtual games and stuff like that just to stay connected and things of that nature. So, but definitely holidays, I go up to Stockton every Christmas, Thanksgiving. I was there a couple of weeks ago. So I try to go as often as I shouldn't say that. Let me not lie because my mom hears it. She'll be like, no, you don't. No, you don't come enough. So let me stop. I probably get over there about 4 or 5 times a year. That's what I try to do.
Hey, that's better than I get home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then they're also coming this way because it's not far, right? It's a 5-hour drive or
Yeah.
15-minute flight. So like my mom and sister was here for my birthday, in January. So they'll come visit me here, or my sister will come, things of nature. So I'll see them more than 5 times because they're coming up here as well. So yeah.
And your mom's still cooking because I heard you say she made you some biscuits, so she's still cooking.
Yes.
Is that part of like when you all when everybody does come home? Is that part of the ritual of like eating or cooking or being together?
Absolutely. I mean, well, obviously holidays, everyone cooks because we eat on holidays, Christmas and Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving is the most eating holiday. That's what I'm going to say. It's the eating holiday.
That's why it's my favorite.
Right.
That's my favorite holiday.
But yeah, when we get together, when we go, my mother always, like, let's say for Christmas Day, she always cooks breakfast for everyone. So that's where the grits come out, the scrambled eggs, the biscuits, some type of sausage or bacon. So that's like the staple. Like it's always going to happen. And I'm always for it. But when I do go home, like if I'm just going home to visit, she will break out the biscuits, circling back to what you asked me first. And so that always happens. And the grits too. I love grits.
These are all, that's why I said soul food is such a big, because it's not one dish, it's many different types of dishes. And as we briefly talked about, which we could dedicate a whole multi-series on sort of the evolution of soul food and its true roots. But yeah, I love, with the exception of chitlins, there's not much soul food that I don't like. Yeah. And I'm not real keen on chicken livers either, because especially since I thought they were chitlins, but
Yeah, I'm cool. I've never had chicken livers. My mom loves them. My mom, I probably shouldn't say this. My mom used to eat chicken bones. Like she doesn't do it anymore. She used to eat chicken bones.
Hold on.
I don't know. She used to back in the day when we were kids.
Hold on. What do you mean? How do you eat a chicken bone? That's like, doesn't it hurt?
No. I don't know why she used to do it. I don't know what that comes from, but she used to eat.
I'm scared for her. That sounds painful. Are you talking about like eating the marrow? Or are you talking about like chewing like eating the bone?
She would eat the bone, yo.
Oh
no, the straight bone.
Okay.
She would she doesn't do it anymore. My mom let me stop because she hears this. She'll be like, why you telling all my business? I'll stop at the chicken bones. I'm not going to say anymore. But yeah, she used to eat chicken bones.
It's less of a judgment and more of a, wow, I didn't know that was possible. I didn't know you could do that.
Well, obviously bone marrow, we know, is a delicacy, right? You see it in very fancy restaurants. Not bone marrow from chickens, but she maybe was ahead of her time. I don't know. Like she
could be an innovator, She could be an innovator.
Maybe. I don't know.
I mean, listen, with soft shell crab, you eat the bones, the shell,
True.
So I'm trying to give it to her here.
I don't know. I don't know.
Who are we to judge? She's still here. She's fine. She's all right. You know what I mean?
My mom was good. She's good.
All right, everybody, we have reached that point in the program where we get to hear from you, our beloved listeners. Because remember, we want you to be involved in this conversation. We want you to be as much a part of this show as we are. So without further ado, I want to play a voicemail for you that we got on our voicemail inbox. And it's really, really special because it's not about soul food at all. It's actually about our very first episode, which was all about Italian food, and in particular, about carbonara. So first and foremost, if you haven't had a chance to listen to episode 1, go ahead and and click in the show notes or navigate back to episode 1 and take a listen to the Italian food episode. It's really, really great. And our next listener tells us about her own experience with food in Rome, in particular with carbonara. So take a listen.
Hi, Ashley. This is Nicole. I heard your podcast on Italian food and enjoyed it and wanted to call and give you my food story in the Italian genre. It's regarding pasta carbonara, and I will call it the carbonara quest. When I was in Italy years ago, probably 25 plus years ago, with some friends of mine, we met up with the son of a friend that was going to school at the Vatican, and he took us around. This was in Rome. He took us around and showed us all the neat little things that tourists don't see and took us to some awesome restaurants. And there was this little restaurant we went to. I don't even remember the name, but I got a pasta carbonara, and I had never really had it, but it looked good, and it was to die for. And I couldn't help myself. I was unabashedly moaning and so thoroughly enjoying it. And this gentleman that was showing us around, who was going to school at the Vatican to become a priest, he was laughing and he said, "You remind me of Saint Teresa in ecstasy." And I was a little embarrassed, and it was funny, but I can't help it. I must have looked like her and better. So I come back to the States, and I have always had that memory of that night, that dish in my mind, and I have tried to order it in places because I want to bring back that taste. And I'd say probably at least 15 times in different places I've tried to order it, and nowhere has come close to it. Some have been good, some have been terrible, but nothing that has hit that same taste. And just before coronavirus hit, I was in a restaurant talking to the owner, and he has a Cuban restaurant here in Virginia. And we were just talking about different foods, and somehow the carbonara came up, and I told him about my carbonara story. And he had a similar story. Him and his wife were in Boston in Little Italy, and they went somewhere and had pasta carbonara, and he said it was to die for. So he came back intent on recreating it, and he said he has got it down to making a wonderful carbonara. And he told me if I bring him gluten-free pasta, because I'm now gluten-free, he will make me pasta carbonara. And I am so excited.
Wow, I loved hearing that story for so many reasons. First of all, it just made me want to go to Rome so bad. I absolutely can't wait to get over there and definitely get my hands on a real plate of carbonara. Holy cow, that sounds so good. But also, I love that story because it means that these episodes are having an effect on your lives, which is just the best. I want you all to be a part of this conversation. So if you've heard anything in any episode that you've listened to that you have a story about and you want to share it with us, please, please do so. It makes my day. It makes me so happy. You can either write that story in if for some reason you're shy about hearing your voice on the air. I will read it for you, no problem. Just write your story in. You can send that in to dearfoodpodcast@gmail.com. Or if you do want us to hear your lovely voice, please call our voicemail box and leave a message. The number to get to that voicemail box is 626-709-6551. Please don't be shy, and I can't wait to hear from you. Okay, back to the show. Okay, Lem, well, it is just about that time. We have had so much fun talking about all things soul food, but we are coming to the end of our show, so I have to ask you, all right, what's the dream dish? If you could eat anything, any meal from anywhere in the world for dinner tonight, what would it be?
Ooh, that's so hard, man, because there's so many great dishes out there. If I'm going to pick anywhere in the world, I would say that I would want to have sushi from the famous chef Hiro in Japan. Yes.
Yes.
I watched the documentary several years ago and was floored. Definitely the best food documentary that I've ever seen.
Oh, I agree. Yeah. So, okay, this is awesome because it's a meal you haven't had yet, but it's like a dream bucket list thing. Oh, yeah. That documentary was special. I mean, talk about dedicating yourself to a craft. So much love and appreciation for sushi.
Yes.
All right, Lem. Okay, well, I'll pack your bags. I'm going to Japan with you with my mind.
Hey, let's go. Let's go.
Well, Lem, we briefly talked about all the many things that you do. So I want to just kind of give you a chance to tell us about what you're working on right now that you love, and most importantly, where people can see your work and find you online and all that good stuff.
Absolutely. Thank you. So yeah, currently I'm, as I mentioned before, hosting a podcast on Afterbuzz TV, but I'm getting ready to start a new podcast with my brother called Brethren, the Brethren podcast. It'll basically be, we've talking about all different types of things, whether it's, current events, things on social media, but we'll be giving our take on it as obviously brothers, family members, but also faith-based perspective. So look for that on the horizon. Also, I'm a poet, so I'm always writing new material and releasing it. For the Black Lives Matter movement, I've done some pieces, especially in the wake of George Floyd being killed by that officer. And so, yeah, I'm always creating. Just last night, I was on a panel for minority veterans. I am a veteran. I've got my shirt, Army. I don't know if you can, if you're watching this. And so it was really good, and I was able to do a social justice piece on that network, and it felt really good. Felt really good. So definitely all about creating, supporting. I went on a protest last Sunday, so that was really fun. Just being out there with all of these people for the cause, the Black Lives Matter movement. And yeah, it's just really near and dear to my heart.
I love I mean, all of the things that you just mentioned. You are so talented across so many sort of verticals here. But I happen to have seen the latest piece that you created for Afterbuzz about the Black Lives Matter movement, and your spoken word artistry is just unmatched. I mean, I wish we had the time or the platform to have you do some spoken word here, because you're so talented. But if people want to watch that, they can find it at. Are you on Instagram at Stay on the Mic? Is that you?
No. So I'm at Uncle Lem.
Uncle Lem. Okay, sorry.
Yeah. Uncle Lem on Instagram. Twitter is Uncle_Lem. So you can see I post everything on either those two platforms. I'm also on Facebook under Lem Gonsalves. But I do have a ton of my videos for my poetry on my website, which is stayonthemic.com.
That's right. Okay.
So,
sorry.
yes.
Sorry about that. Okay.
Yeah,
so
no,
website stayonthemic.com. And that's where, I love that you can, I forget what the word is, but when you're a marriage officiant, like you could marry people, right?
Oh yeah.
What's
So
that?
I'm a wedding officiant.
Yeah.
A wedding
I
officiant.
love that.
Yes. If you want to get married and, nuptials, I'm, Ashley.
Yeah.
Just
Hey, I just need a freaking proposal, and then let's do it. I'll call you up.
there it is. All right. Well, as soon as that happens, holla at your boy. But yeah, I'm a licensed ordained minister, so I can definitely hook that up for you. Done several weddings, and so yeah, boom.
I love that. I just didn't know. I guess I didn't think of that as like a profession that people can do. But of course, I mean, you're so good at speaking. You have a faith base. I mean, it's like why wouldn't you be a wedding officiant? That's like the perfect.
Why wouldn't you be? Why wouldn't you?
Yeah. Why wouldn't you? I love it. Well, Lem, thank you so much for being here today and talking with us about soul food. I love hearing your voice and everything that you have to say. Thank you for being here.
No, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. Absolutely. Thank you so much.
And thank you, everyone, for listening. I really hope you're enjoying the show as much as I am. If there is someone that you think might also like this show, make sure you share it with them on Apple Podcasts. And you're subscribed, right? Okay, make sure you're subscribed to Dear Food, because it's free to do so on Apple Podcasts. And then that way, you'll never miss an episode, right? Who would want to miss an episode? So thank you so much. Have a great week, everybody. And we'll see you right back here for the next episode.